Hello.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Dr. Dave Welch. This is Dr. Diane Krieger. We're going to read another blog that I wrote. This one's entitled, Who's in Charge Here? So we're going to do it, whereas Dr. Diane's going to read, and then I'm going to do the color commentary.
He will interject. And just so you know, Dr. Dave does write these. Some people have asked, oh, who writes the blogs for Dr. Dave? Well, he writes them himself. He reads the books and he really comments, and he is the writer. So at any rate, I'm going to read his blog today. Firstly, he starts off commenting about how the blogs get heavy. He doesn't mean to make them heavy, and he doesn't mean to enforce any belief. He's just suggesting that you look at some things and consider them and see if they're true for you. Many years ago, there was a Far Side cartoon of two bears eating berries, and one says to the other, you know, looking at the teeth and the claws, don't you get the idea we should be eating something other than berries? It's just kind of funny. When a person looks at his fellow man and all the amazing things that people can do and the magnificence of our planet and the world around us, don't you think there's a lot more to it? Like maybe doing more than hating each other and destroying this wonderful place we call home? Perhaps we can do something better and get much, much more out of the opportunity we have at this time and place. This is the reason for eating well, thinking well, acting well, and simply being well, to play bigger and more rewarding games rather than spending a lifetime breaking one's back trying to get back to that day when we were legends in our own minds, or perhaps punting into the future hoping and praying that it will all be better somehow in the future.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, this is an incredible opportunity. I just being alive, you know, when you consider you're closer now to being able to accomplish anything that you want to do, if you have some status of health and you're involved in living and moving and grooving and doing things. It's just a tremendous opportunity. You know, I was talking to some people the other day, and you know, I just sort of made the comment, you'd be surprised at what you were capable of doing. And I just like that idea. You know, life is about, this is supposed to be a challenge. Everything is challenging, and it's meant to be so. And you overcome these challenges, and every day is an opportunity to try it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes on and says, and what of today? Time spent grinding away, trying to figure out how one is going to come up with a small fortune each month to fund the machine that only makes our lives miserable and each of us unhappy.
Oh, I can't. That's the whole thing, man. Is that really the game when you look at it? You will look around when you're driving to work and you're driving back home. Look at the zombies. Look at yourself. Did you make enough shekels today to get up and be able to do it tomorrow because the machine, because the man says it's okay, because you gave him your blood, sweat, and tears and your money to just go? You can't take this with you. You can't keep it.
You should read that part.
It says, yeah, okay, good. It says, no, I'm not having a bad day. But I'm just saying, when you consider the opportunity of the games and the things that you could do, this makes no sense. You're never, ever going to get a letter. I'm 61 years old. When do I get my letter from the IRS that says, hey, Dave, you know, we feel that you've paid enough in taxes this lifetime, and now you're exempt from paying any taxes from here on out? I will never, ever get that letter. Darn. You know, there's just always going to be somebody standing there with their hand out. And it just, if you're not careful, you'll waste your time here on this planet. You got to throw that crap out the window, get rid of it, and live.
But how can one be truly healthy and happy if he is unhappy? Or it says, how can one be truly healthy and well if he is unhappy? How can one look up and enjoy the sunny blue skies when his nose is forced to be smashed against the grindstone, or else?
Yeah, or else.
Here are a couple of interesting terms or concepts to look at and think about. Number 1, self-determined. Number 2, other determined. Simply put, self-determined is where the individual himself decides how things are going to be and what games he is going to play or not play. He is in control of himself and his own destiny, as it were. Other determined is quite the opposite, and instead of the individual himself deciding how things are going to be, what games he will or won't play, and controlling his own destiny, something or someone other than himself will make the determinations and decide for the individual. And yes, this can be one's own mind. Where and when possible, which would you rather be? Self-determined or other determined? Me, I would much rather think for myself and make my own decisions. Obviously, this is not always possible.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
We could do this little description.
Self-determined is where you kind of call the shots. You're not always going to be able to do that, and you there's just things where you're going to be other determined. But when you sit here with this cell phone and purposefully be brainwashed and fed nonsense, the news, the social media, all the theys, and do you see what they're going to do now, and all the rest of this stuff, and now you have a problem and have something that you need to take care of or something like that. Get rid of it. You don't need it. So this is the thing that I say. When one decides, here's an example of other determined. When one decides to fly on an airplane, he is other determined by the weather, the airline, and even the pilot flying the aircraft. But even in this situation, one can still be self-determined in how he conducts himself and controls his actions. You'll see people, if you watch some of the YouTube videos, you always get a video of some idiot. If you're one of these idiots, I'm sorry, that's just got to act up and cause problems and be self-determined on an airplane. And it doesn't work that way. You've decided, the pilot, the airline, you paid your dough. But self-determined and other determined, those are really, really great concepts.
Because you continue and say, even when someone else is in charge, a person can still be cool, if you know what I mean. But consider this quote from Epictetus, an early Roman Stoic, who is like a philosopher type guy from 8 million years ago. He said, if a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along so they may abuse you, leaving it, that being you and your mind, disturbed and troubled. Have you no shame in that? End quote.
I love that quote. I love it so much. This is what Epictetus said. If a person gave your body to some passerby, somebody just walking by, here, take this person, you'd be furious. Absolutely furious. Yet you, us, all of us, hand our minds over to anyone that comes along. Some Twitter thing, some this or that, some genius that's got some recommendation. Oh, you're supposed to this, you're supposed to that. Did you realize you're doing everything wrong in life? How about that? There it is. It says you hand your mind over to anyone who comes along so they may abuse you, leaving it, that being you and your mind, disturbed and troubled, if you want a perfect example of that. Have you no shame in that? I love that quote.
It says, wow, that's a little heavy-handed. Yes. But look around. It's not an untrue statement. Look at the number of people who stare at their cell phones.
Right.
Epictetus must have had a time machine. Think of the whole COVID thing, right? I don't care if you were the bride or the groom or which side of the aisle a person sat, but according to David Seaman, who's a DC, in a recent issue of the American Chiropractor, he says, quote, because of the misinformation that was fed to the public concerning COVID, it caused people to overestimate their chance of dying from COVID by 5,000%, end quote. This was taken from the Franklin Templeton Gallup Economics of Recovery study. It's criminal. As a result, scientists have coined the term COVID stress syndrome. And Dr. Seaman reported that on the day he wrote his article for the American Chiropractor, a quick Google search found that over 162 million people were searching for 162 million results for COVID, quote unquote, COVID stress syndrome. So
162 million results. So if you wanted to look up COVID stress syndrome, when he wrote this a few months ago.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, there it was. 162 million things that you can look up.
While the bug was one thing, it appears that the fear caused by misinformation might have been and had an even greater impact. And we actually felt this in our office with patients. It was incredible.
Exactly. And again, yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along so they may abuse you, leaving it, that being you and your mind, disturbed and troubled. Have you no shame in that? Put the phones down, shut the TVs off, burn the newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, think for yourself. Look, live, play your games, determine yourself, determine your life, determine what you want to do. And oh, by the way, you'll find yourself healthy.
I love it. A number of blogs ago, I introduced a TED Talk given by Kelly McGonigal entitled Making Stress Your Friend. Basically, it is not the stress itself that has the potential of wiping us out, but rather if a person thinks the stress or the stressor can wipe him out. This would be a belief that a person was being other determined. And that means the person was being other determined by adopting this idea. Consider this. Let's say a person through study and activity decides to wake at 6 a.m., get a cup of coffee, and sit in the sunshine for a half hour each morning before getting after some sunlight. Gardening is the magic formula for ensuring that they are uptoned and productive for the rest of the day. I think I read that wrong. Anyway.
But yeah, you get this idea. Just to go back to that, it's not the actual stress. Obviously, chronic stress is one thing, but the acute stress, you go to the gym, that's acute stress. When you eat, your teeth banging into the ones, and that's acute stress. It makes you stronger, tougher, better. When you eat vegetables have polyphenols in them, right? Which are the things that make them colorful. Oh, those are huge antioxidants. The way they work is that they're toxins. So what they do is the green in broccoli keeps the broccoli bug from getting it. The orange in carrots keeps the carrot crud from destroying it. So when we eat this, the body says, oh my goodness, there's some toxins. That's a little bit of a stress. And then your body builds up, and then the antioxidants go and they fix and they repair. It's always a challenge. So when you have an idea that even these little stressful things, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is just surely going to cause me the end of my life. If you watch that video, that TED Talk from Kelly McGonigal, she'll give you the actual numbers on people. And that's exactly what. It wasn't the stress. It was the person thinking that it was going to wipe them out. In other words, they were kind of other determined by either the media, there's that word again, and everything, or their own minds that just said, oh, good.
But do you realize that I could find probably just as many negative studies reporting that waking before 7 a.m., drinking coffee, and oh my goodness, sunshine? What the heck are you thinking? These are all horrible for you. At this point, most ask, who are we supposed to believe?
And that's a great point. You saw, as Dr. Diane was reading before, you might decide getting up, have a cup of coffee, get the sunshine, go after it in the garden, get some things done and everything. And wow, since you've been doing that, you just feel great and wonderful. And that's good. And I can find a lot of stuff in the literature that would support, yeah, that's the thing to do. On the other hand, I can also find stuff in the literature that says anybody that's awake before 7 o'clock, getting that horrible sunshine, which is horrible, exercise is bad for you, and if it's not this and everything else. And that's the big question. So who, and here we get back to our theme, who are you supposed to believe?
It says, use your knowingness and look. Don't believe anyone, not even yourself. Use your knowingness and look. Through trial and error, through study and research and investigation, think for yourself and determine what works best for you and do that. What's true for you is true for you. The proof is in the pudding. Does it work for you? If so, then everyone can kiss your backside as far as I'm concerned. See, this is another example between the difference of self-determinism and other determinism. You decide. Take charge of yourself and your destiny, and to heck with everyone else and all of their noise. As usual, thanks for being here and listening. And let us know what you think. If you'd like to schedule time to come in and have a little tete-a-tete with Dr. Dave, he would love that. He would love to have a discussion with you and hear some feedback. Okay,
Yeah,
have a great day.
Yeah, and I really would. So if you like these video things and these reads, please let us know. My personal opinion is I'm not photogenic. So being on a video,
Yes, you are.
is not really the best. But yeah, let us know if you like these, if you like the blogs, if anything I'm writing about, you'd love to talk about. I'm not trying to teach you. Everybody else out there is trying to teach you and all the rest of this stuff. I already know what I think. I'm very interested in
If
what
you'd like to hear about a specific topic, let us know.
in what you think.
Mhm.
I would love to have that conversation with what you think. Yeah, I'm not looking for enemies or anything. I just like that process of the back and forth and volleying ideas, and who knows, maybe we'll come up with a solution to everything.
Okay, let's go be self-determined.
Yeah.